Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the show where we tell the stories of the people in Clarksville who make this the best place to live in America. I'm your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr., local pediatric dentist, Clarksville native, just love Clarksville and all that it has to offer, all the positive things that are happening around our town. We're excited that you've joined us for another episode. Got a great episode for you today. If you would, just remember, as always, any kind of interactions with us online or on whatever platform that you're subscribing to this on, any action helps us along the way. Subscribe, comment, share, all of those things help trick the social media algorithms to help spread our message more and help get our content out so more people can hear about this awesome message about how good Clarksville is, and the people of Clarksville can get to know more people along the way. Well, my guest today is somebody that I'm really excited about. I'm not going to spend too much time introducing him because I know that his content is going to be really valuable, something that a lot of us are going to want to hear. He's got a lot of expertise in Austin Peay football and Austin Peay athletics. He is the voice of the Govs, Brian Rives. He just told me this is his 9th season doing football, 4th or 5th season doing basketball. So he's been around it forever. Family guy, Clarksville native, played football at Montgomery Central. I'm excited to dig into all of these things with him here today. So thanks for jumping in, and we will jump right into the episode now. Brian, hey, thanks so much for being here.
I appreciate the invite, Kevin. Glad to be with you. Yeah. I enjoyed the previous episodes watching, so I'm honored to be sitting here with you.
Man, that's very cool. So I know that as we get into this is the first time my voice is number 2. So, when you're the voice of the radio, you've got the radio voice, and it just comes out.
I have a face for radio and a voice for radio, so that's it works out fine for me.
That's hilarious. Well, I thought we'd start talking a little bit about you because people hear
Sure.
your voice a lot. Sometimes they might see you, whether it's on, a video content that the athletic department is putting out, but they may not know a little bit about you. So you are a Clarksville native. You've been around Austin Peay forever, family guy, married. How long?
Be 22 years in December.
Wow.
I met my wife at Austin Peay State University.
Okay.
So a lot of family ties just roll into that university. But like you said, born and raised here. Mother and father both from here as well. Fourth generation Clarksvillians. Yeah. Both my grandfathers retired from working from the city, and my father retired working from the city. My mother was a former employee of South Central Bell South.
Yeah.
She was an operator that actually had to change the plugs into the board. So I got my gift to talk from her, I think. But people laugh when I say I was raised in this city when this city stopped at Co-op. I can remember as a child in Clarksville when people were arguing whether you should annex St. Bethlehem and make it part of Clarksville. And now look at you can't recognize this city without Wilma Rudolph Boulevard going all the way out there. So I've been around here for a while, and I'm thrilled to be when I tell people I'm from Clarksville, Tennessee.
Yeah. The newcomers looking like, why do they have a co-op in the middle of the town?
The road stopped. Well, I won't say the road. Industry stopped at Co-op, and from Co-op to the interstate, there was one Texaco, and there was a golf driving range on the left side right next to a couple of silos. Yeah. That's all I remember being between Co-op and the interstate. Right. So, this town has grown a little since I've been around.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's fun to share. Your son is now high school senior playing football here at Clarksville High, so I'm sure that is fun seeing that come full circle, you as a former local high school player, and then now watching him kind of get to experience the same thing you've experienced.
My son's a senior. I have a daughter who's a freshman. She's in the band, so we do not leave the stands at all during a football game on Friday night. But you're right, yeah. To watch Knox progress, when you have children, and you'll experience this, and I know you have it, you see them mature so far beyond where you were at that age. Myself as a 17-year-old kid playing high school football, all I was worried about was getting to practice, getting a meal, and getting to bed and get back.
Sure.
He has many interests, so many diversities that take him in different directions, and to see him mature and see my daughter as well just kind of blossom in the band setting and the school setting, and she has a little bit of the theater bug as well. She loves musical theater, and we've explored that with her as well. So, but to see them mature and see them really come into their own, far beyond where I was at that age. That's what makes me the happiest, quite honestly.
That's fun. Well, I got to ask you. So you played football at Montgomery Central.
I did. Tried to play at Middle Tennessee for a couple of years for Hall of Fame coach Boots Donnelly. I'll be honest, I was not mature enough to go there and be on my own. I did not put my work in the books, so I did not make it on the field, and that's one of my biggest regrets in life. But my son knows why I beat that over him with making sure the grades are right before just the field is right. Yeah. But again, one of my biggest regrets has become one of my biggest loves to stay in the game. I had opportunities when I first got out to help some friends coach some things, and I've coached Knox in like flag football and different things, baseball and things like that. But my love has always been on the content side, on the creative side, with the broadcast medium, and being able to kind of tell the story, if you will, of those young men that are on the field, and what all goes into making it. There's so much more to it than just that Saturday at kickoff. Yeah. There's so much more to it, and that's where I get to have the pleasure of telling that story and putting those words out there.
Yeah, there's so much more to your profession as well that people don't know behind the scenes, how much homework is done before that first snap happens on the field, and how much work is put in through your career to wait for the opportunity to kind of be the voice. So tell us a little bit about that, about, how did you first think about wanting to be the voice of the Govs or voice of any kind of athletic, and what was your kind of career trajectory like getting to this point?
I'd always been an admirer of folks that could go on television or go on radio and call a baseball game or call a football game, basketball game, whatever, and put you in that arena, put you in that position to know exactly what was going on. We all know the generalities of what a football field looks like, or a baseball diamond, or a basketball court. But to paint the picture, to add to that, I've always been an admirer of those that can do that. And there's folks that can do it when they describe art. I can look at a painting and I see a painting. Someone else who's really in that genre can look at that same painting and really develop it and tell me the story of it more than I could ever do. I try to do that with sports, and I know that might be a little cliche sounding, but that's exactly what I try to do. You know what the football field looks like, so I try to paint the picture to let you feel like you're actually there with us, even if you're a couple hundred miles away or if you're just down the road driving by. I try to paint that picture. I got into this, and oddly enough, I always had that bug. I always wanted to try it, but the actual first opportunity to broadcast was from high school sports. One of my best friends in the entire world, Josh Smith, was a teacher at Stewart County High School. And the gentleman who did Stewart County High School football had some health troubles and wasn't going to be able to do football for a month or so. So Josh, being the best friend he is, told everybody, we can do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Before he'd ever,
we can do it, right? Yeah.
Before he even talked to me, there was nothing going there.
That's a good friend right there.
It was one of the best. Yeah. So he called me that night. He said, hey, what are you doing Friday night? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, probably go watch a football game somewhere. He said, well, we're going to go to Dover and we're going to call the game. Like, you mean like PA? And he said, no, we're going to do radio. Yeah. I was like, we're
going to watch the game and be on the radio.
Pretty much. So literally that Thursday night, there was a preseason NFL game. So we decided we'd go sit down on the couch, just like all of us do, turn the volume down, and we would call the football game to practice.
Got to practice.
We were horrible. So Friday night comes, there's no backing out. We've got to do this. So we're in Stewart County at the old high school, and the play happens, kickoff happens, the play happens, and it's radio silence. Because we have no idea what we're doing. Yes, we have rosters, so we have names and numbers, but I don't know the kids. I don't know the coaches. He knows a little bit about the kids. So as we go on, he starts to open up a little bit there. He's my color guy, so he's got me into this. He's going to be there with me. But yeah, we were horrible, absolutely horrible. But the bug bit me, and I knew that, hey,
that was the moment.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get a little better at this. So the next week, I called the coach, talked to him for about 30 minutes, kind of seeing how he thought about the next team. Invaluable information. Did a little research right when getting online was available, and certain websites from really reading local newspapers from other schools, and just getting my knowledge base developed. And again, as bad as we were that first night was the bug and what lit me, as you said, to the homework that goes into it. As we record this, we're heading for the Austin Peay opener this Saturday as we go on the road to Western Kentucky. Today, I got Western Kentucky's game notes. I have our game notes. I've got the 2-deep chart that I'll start working through and making my little scribbles and personal notes that I can reflect on and work through during the contest and the broadcast. But there is just so much more going into an event.
Sure.
If I have the time to develop my story and develop what we're talking about, I feel like I can do a good job for the listener.
Yeah.
I admire these guys that do television that go from college game on a Saturday to go to a pro game on a Sunday and never miss a beat.
That's right.
They have my utmost admiration.
Yeah. I'm sure there's
I couldn't do that.
Technical differences between radio and TV.
Oh, sure.
But what I love listening to the radio. You know, I've driven down Madison Street, leaving a game early or getting to a game late, listening to you and Van kind of give us the preview for the game or as the game is going on. And it seems like the guys who are connected to the program and connected to the players share the pieces of information at the right time to just reel you in, because you know, it just happens to be this third quarter, 3rd and 3 sack that happens by the redshirt sophomore who missed last year because of an ACL and who played high school at this high school under this legendary coach. And those extra bits of information really pull you into the narrative, to the story that's being told, and you get to the exciting action of the game.
Well, the way I approach it, and I'm different than a lot of broadcasters. I will admit I am on the homer side. You know, there's your professional broadcasters that are Switzerland. They're 50-50 either way. They're going to be fine. I'm a Governor fan. I grew up a Governor fan. It's hard not to be an Austin Peay fan.
That's what I love about you.
And so it's going to come across. Right. I will get loud and start cheering, and my voice will crack, and I'll say something absolutely insane because I'm going to do this as I'm a fan.
That's right. Yeah.
Those conversations about that kid where we learned about, like you said, what he did in high school. That's the conversations you and I be having if we were sitting next to each other drinking a Coca-Cola in the stands.
Yes.
So I'm going to have those same conversations with folks listening to me on the radio. And that's always the way I'm going to approach it. I'm a fan first. Yeah. I love the game of football. I love what it's given me and my family's opportunities, now my son with opportunities, and to be around this program, to watch all the changes at Austin Peay over the years. So I want to try to give back. That may sound childish or selfish, but I want to give back as much as I can to the game that's given me as much as it has.
That's powerful. Yeah. Well, you certainly bring a lot of energy. I
Sometimes
joke to some
much.
people, it's like there's nobody that's got more energy on a 4-yard run on 1st and 10 than Brian Rives. It's like, did he break it? Oh, it was 4-yard run. All right, 2nd and 6. Here we go.
But I made you listen.
You did. I'm
you
right
had,
on locked
You had
in.
to keep on there. One of the best compliments I ever got was the second year I was broadcasting, and I'll never forget it. I won't mention her by name, but she came up to me. She goes, "We didn't get to listen to the first half, but I tuned in the 3rd quarter, and you had us locked in, and everything was so close, and I had no idea we were down by 28 points." Yeah. And I was like, "Well, then I did my job."
That's right.
You know,
you were still locked in.
The first 2 years, excuse me. The first 2 years I called football, I never called a win.
Right.
First 2 years at Austin Peay, we were part of the nation's longest losing streak and never got to the point to call that victory till we got to that second week against Morehead State at home, where everybody remembers goalposts coming down and all the celebration. Right. But it was those first couple of years. It was hard to get excited, but you had to keep it up.
It's funny you bring up that game. I did want to bring it up. I'll
Sure.
just do it now. I actually, kind of preparing for this episode, I went on YouTube and found the highlights from that game. And, you know, it starts with the national commentators.
Mm-hmm.
They show a couple clips of Austin Peay lost 45 out of 46, 28 in a row, or whatever it is. And then your voice comes on, and it's you and Van kind of introducing this game, and then the highlights start happening, and you see Jason Williams, you see Javon Craig, and you know, you feel like they were just here on campus doing these things. But I mean, the background music, I mean, I got goosebumps listening to it. And so if you're a Govs fan and you were there that game, I would encourage you right now, gonna go to YouTube, find that clip, because it is fun now to think about how exciting that was. And I remember going into the game, I think we all kind of knew we were going to win. I don't think we knew we were going to win that game 69-13. And it was just the most, you know, action-packed, you know, some ways you hate to kind of beat down on an opponent 69-13, but we needed that.
Everybody from the coaching staff. That was Will Healy's second year after he went winless in his first year. But and going into that season, Will said, this is we can go play for an OVC championship. This is a team that lost 30-plus games in a row, and here he is saying we can go win an OVC championship. Yes. So half the people were wondering what Will was taking in the morning. Yeah. The other half believed. And as you said, going into Morehead State, we knew they were a non-scholarship school where Austin Peay had just been 6 or 7 years prior, trying to build a program back. Going in, there was some belief because we'd seen Morehead State. We knew, seen them on tape. We knew what they ran. We knew the athletes we had to match up against them. And you're right. That was one where I was like, okay, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen here.
That's right.
And so glad it did.
It did.
And normally as an announcer, you don't like to call blowouts. Yeah. I had a whole lot of fun calling that blowout because it was just when you saw the relief. And I had watched all these young men, and you mentioned Javon Craig. Javon Craig, a young man from Chattanooga who came to Austin Peay and committed to a school that hadn't won since he was a high school freshman.
Right.
But he still believed enough in the message from Healy and the message about what was going on here to come here and be a part of that and be a part of that victory. To see their joy, to see those faces, to see that coaching staff, and to see the administrators at the time who had put everything into it to get to that point, and to see them react, again, that's what does it for me. That's what gets the smile on my face.
Well, your voice was part of it. It's a critical part of it because you're connected to the program in just such a central way. And I know we're excited about this season, so let's shift gears and talk about this season.
Sure.
From 2017 to now, expectations have certainly changed. We don't expect to maybe get a win this year. We're expecting to compete at a high level. This is, I don't know what year this is. Coach Walden's been head coach because he had the COVID year. Nobody knows what classification he is, but his second or third season of leading the team. And obviously they're making the transition into the ASUN this year. Some new opponents on the schedule that we've not seen before, and a lot of new kids that are either recruited in or transferred in, and that is just the nature of college football at this time. So I'm sure it's been exciting for you. My question to you is, what's your outlook for the team this year? What are some of its strengths and what are some of its question marks that you see?
Well, oddly enough, to your point, so this is Scotty Walden's third year, but this is the first full summer workout he's had with his school.
Yes.
Because he came in the spring season and had to coach 6 games in the spring, and then COVID kind of shut down that summer and went back to a fall. Now he's had this entire spring and summer going into this fall. I think some of the strength of his team defensively, Coach Chris Kappas, scheme-wise, is one of the best in America. Wow. And I'm not just saying that because I get to work with him or see him and see what he works. But, when you look at his success back with D3 at Mount Union and winning national championships there, coming here, the level of defense last year, we lost a lot of key pieces, but the scheme to know Coach Kappas is going to put those guys in the right spot. And you look at an Alexander at back, and you look at different guys coming back on the defensive front. I'm super excited. We're going to be very young in the defensive backfield, so there's some question marks there about coverage and just making sure those guys can stay with certain receivers. We'll get a great test at Western on Saturday because they've got some. They've got 2 SEC transfers, a Notre Dame transfer, and a Big Ten transfer at wideout. Wow. So we're going to get it tested early on the edges. Offensively, I think there's great talent offensively. You look at a Josh Samuel who transfers in at tailback from Jacksonville State. Ironically enough, started his career at Western Kentucky, then transferred to Jack State. Now is at Austin Peay going to play his old school. So it's just a fantastic hard-nosed runner. You look at big, what I call big play Dre McCray or wide out. He doesn't even stand 6 foot tall, but he can go up with the best of them and go get it. He's as fast as anybody that I think we've ever suited up in the uniform. The only question on the offensive side for me is the offensive line. We had to put a lot of pieces there together that hadn't been together before. So that offensive front, to me, any offensive line, you have to play together. You have to learn what the guy to your left and right is doing and trust them. And the only way you're going to do that is through snaps. So as the game progresses, by the time we get to the ASUN regular season schedule, I think they'll be locked in. But early on, it's that offensive line front and the defensive backfield. I think that's the real questions. I think we can score. I think there's enough athleticism that we're going to go put points on the board and make things real interesting. I think we can defend very well, so it's a nice balance. I think early on there may be some shootouts. I think the schedule also lends itself to us as after Western, there's a couple of games, and this is no disrespect to our opponents, a couple of games that will be favored, heavily favored. And that gives us a chance to work through some kinks by the time, like you said, before we have to pack up and go to Central Arkansas, and before we have to see Eastern Kentucky and Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State, who's one of the classes in the ASUN, and North Alabama, who I think is a team that's really on the rise from seeing their recruiting over the last couple of years. But this is a team that gets me excited as that 2017 team. Wow. And that says something to me because I knew 2017 had some special pieces. What could we do with it? It's the same approach this year. There's some very special pieces. How do they fit together? How does the puzzle fit together, and what can we do with them?
Yeah, that's exciting. It's a fun breakdown, and I'm excited as the year progresses. some of the newer names that may not have been, let's say, Austin Peay fan household names. You know, there's not a Cordell Jackson who everyone knows, and he's going to run out there this year, and that's the guy that's leading the defense. You know, there's not a Javon Craig.
Right.
Everyone knows like he's our guy this year. But I'm excited to see those leaders emerge. Dre McCrae's a young guy, but like you say, just dynamic. You love to see kind of the skills that he has. You love to see the offensive coaches create opportunities for him to be the weapon that he is. But there's lots of question marks, and so we're just going to cheer him on, and
that's it. We'll be there.
We'll be there. That's it. Is there an opponent on the schedule this year you're most excited about playing? Well, because some of them are familiar. You know, there's Central Arkansas, which we had 2 really tough games against in some previous seasons. So seeing them again, I think we know what level of program there are. Of course, we were able to retain Murray, so I think longtime Austin Peay fans, that's kind of exciting to keep that rivalry going. But there's some new ones, like you said, Alabama A&M, Kennesaw State. Is there one that stands out to you?
You know, I'm excited. Selfishly, I'm excited to go to Alabama. I know a lot of folks aren't looking towards that game, but, you know, to go into that historic stadium, you know, for me as a kid growing up, every Saturday morning, 11 o'clock kickoff on what was Jefferson Pilot was the SEC game of the week. So you got to watch Bryant-Denny Stadium. You got to watch the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens. Well, lucky enough, a couple years ago, we played in Athens. We've played in Neyland. We played in Dudley Field with Vanderbilt. We'll go back to Neyland next year and play Tennessee in 2024. So I get selfish to go to those kind of historic places. I'm super excited to go to Central Arkansas because of the stripes. You know, if no one knows the history of Central Arkansas, their field alternates purple and gray stripes on the field. It is not a green football field. It's purple and gray, and they call it the stripes. They play very differently. You know, it's not Boise State blue or Eastern Washington red, but there's some personality. Yeah. I'm excited to go take on Kennesaw State. You know, I'll be honest with you, Kennesaw State over the past 4 to 5 years has been a top 5 program at the FCS level. So if you want to know what you've got as a governor, you've got to go play the big dogs. And you know, you've got to go take on a Kennesaw State, and you've got to go take on guys in Eastern Kentucky that was the class of the OVC, 2 national championships back in the day. Makes the move to the ASUN with us, so they're still an arch rival to go to Richmond and take on the Colonel. So I still get excited about those traditional rivalries, but as much as we may dread the competition of the big game, I still like going to those historic stadiums.
Oh yeah, the pageantry.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, we played at Ole Miss 2 years ago, and I always get there a little early to get everything set up, make sure my mic works, check van, we make sure all our equipment's ready. But I got set up extra early because I snuck out, and I walked down to the Grove and just got to walk around for about 30, 45 minutes and just take it all in. Right. Because you have to appreciate where you are. If you don't take a second to just take a breath, you know, and I don't think he'll mind me sharing this, you know, Corey Wright, who just took over at Montgomery Central, brand new head football coach, I texted him Friday afternoon before his first game. I said, do me a favor. Before kickoff, just take a minute. Just turn all the way around, look at everything, and take a deep breath, take it all in, and then coach the game. Because you have to just take all that in. And I try to tell my son that, my daughter that. My wife is one that really kind of made me realize that as we've grown together.
That's why we need our wives. Otherwise, we're just bull in the china shop, straightforward. You know, I'm here to call the game. I'm not going to take it in.
So to just take that moment and enjoy where you are. And, you know, when you hear all these great stories, you now know a little more about it. Or when you hear someone talk about a landmark, you were there.
That's right.
You know, so that taking that appreciation of what goes on and what I get to be a part of, it's big. But the long answer to your short question is I'm excited to go to Alabama. I'm excited to go to Kennesaw, and like I said, get to go to the Stripes, Central Arkansas. Those are the 3 biggest ones this season.
So, fun fact about Central Arkansas, you know, their current president right now is Houston Davis. Houston Davis was a professor at Austin Peay.
Oh, okay.
My freshman year, and he was the director of the Emerging Leaders Program, and that's where my wife and I met. And so he, of course, I think we connected when they first came here, and then I think we traveled there. But he's got a connection to Austin Peay. I don't know that a ton of people know because it's been 15 or 18 years now since that time. But he's president at UCA and was a dynamic leader on Austin Peay's campus, and his career has just pointed him upwards. He's now at UCA.
So I met my wife at Austin Peay. We were in geology class together and in geology lab. So I broke the ice by literally grabbing the box of rocks that we had to put under the microscope that day in lab and took them to her and her lab partner. Right. So I was like, hey, I'm Brian. Nice to meet you. Here
I'm
you
a
go.
little bit smarter than this box.
Well,
you want to hang out later?
It may still be debatable, but yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the next thing I wanted to ask is, as you've called more and more football games, we talked about your energy that you bring to the booth. But is there a favorite type of play that you just, gets you excited every time? Is it a touchdown, a sack, a pick six? Is it a lineman that just comes off the edge and just puts somebody on his back? What is it for you where you look at it and it just fires you up?
I'm an old offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So I love pancake blocks. I love to see the big uglies get up front, just beat up on somebody and run downhill. My favorite thing to call, and you joked about it earlier, is that 4 or 5 yard run. But it's that 4 or 5 yard run where the back really doesn't have to work. He kind of falls forward and then gets taken out. Because those big uglies up front pushed the line and got him those 4 yards. And he, like I said, doing their job. I love to watch it. The favorite's the touchdown. Yeah. It's got to be the touchdown. And people have given me a hard time sometime about my touchdown call. I attribute my touchdown call to soccer. And here's how I say that. If you're listening to the radio, you may be busy. You may be in your garage. You may be playing with your children or at somewhere else, but you're listening to the game. Well, when we score, I want you to make sure you know we score, so I have that long touchdown Governors call, like a soccer announcer where you'll goal and hold it for 20 – I don't hold it for 20 minutes, but, so I've got your attention back. So you'll tune back in or turn the radio up a little, say, hey, we scored. How did we score? And get you back into the contest and let you know the score. So the touchdown's always the biggest piece for me because, again – if I'm in the stands and we score, that's when it's going to be the biggest for the fan as well.
Well, and what an exciting program to call if you love doing that, because I went to the recruiting celebration back in February for signing day.
Yes.
And one of the things that Coach Walton talked about is we play vertical.
Yes.
Our goal is touchdowns on every drive,
yes.
And we're going to take chances. And if that means some of our drives are short because we didn't score a touchdown, then that's it. But lots of touchdown opportunities. So I'm curious, he brings this high energy, high impact, fast-paced offense. But from your perspective, what are some of the things that you think he's brought to the program as a young guy, first head coaching opportunity, that don't show up on the field necessarily, but show up in the culture of the program?
That's a great question. I think Scotty's influence, Coach Walden will be professional here. I think his influence is far beyond the field. I think we were set up personnel-wise and the coaching staff he brought in wise. This style of offense is what it is in college football. It's the flavor of the day, or however you want to say it. But I think what Scotty has done is he's put an emphasis on, and you see this from, and he's requested this from his media partners and the sports information part, to tell the whole story. And Gerald Harrison, who I know that you talk to and know very well, talks about that total Gov concept. It's not just the football player. It's the student athlete. It's the person themselves. Just yesterday they debuted the new locker room inside Forterra Stadium. Every locker has the photograph of the player. It'd been real easy to just do a standard headshot where the guy's just looking straight ahead and that's him. Mm-hmm. It's all personality. It's guys flexing. It's guys holding the football. It's striking the Heisman pose. And Scotty has brought that where, hey, you can come to Austin Peay and be a football player and be a student, but you can still develop you. Who is Kevin Kennedy? Who is Brian Rives?
Right.
You're going to find that at Austin Peay. You're not just going to be football player Kevin or football player Brian. You're going to be the whole package, and you're going to learn a little bit of everything. I attribute it, and a phrase I heard was, you're going to dip your toe in every water.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to swim in every water, but you're going to know about every water.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great example of what he's put on this program. I want you to be a football player. I want you to be the best football player you can be. But I also want you to be the best teammate you can be, the best student you can be. And then 10 years, the best husband and father and employee you can be. And that's how he attributes it, and that's how he builds his program. He's passed on some kids, I know this for a fact, that could have come to Austin Peay and made big impacts on the field, but wouldn't have fit in that locker room or wouldn't have been a representative for Austin Peay in the community. I mean, think about, unfortunately, just this past weekend, if you're a Tennessee fan, the headline on Sunday morning was a Tennessee player getting arrested.
That's right.
You don't see those things now with Austin Peay, and you don't have those kind of issues constantly popping up that you may have at other schools. So he takes care, and his coaches take great care of who wears the red, white, and black and who represents Austin Peay State University.
And I think it's contagious. His energy is unlike no other.
And that energy's straight. There's no coffee involved. There's a little bit of caffeine and Coca-Cola, but
it's really something else.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It is, my wife is a very casual football fan. So, she will not watch it on TV, but she'll, when we go to the Austin Peay, she kind of gets into it a little bit. And she asked me the question one time. She said, who is that guy in front of the line before they run out on the field? Like, he's like, what is he doing? I was like, that's the head coach. And 100%. He does this with the offense before they go out every time. So those little things, but when you watch it, it's like sleeves pulled up a little bit. He's right here and he's in it. And he's putting the message of what this drive is going to look like. I don't know what he's saying, but it looks like from the stands that he's giving them all he's got.
You always talk about leadership, and leadership works from the top down. Energy, I think energy and attitude comes from the top down as well, and that's exactly what you get from Scotty. It is him. 100% it is him. It's not a show. For some people, it's a show. For some people, it's an act. That's not an act. He genuinely cares about those kids. He wants to see those smiles, like we talked about after Moorhead, those smiles and those celebrations. He wants to see those every game from every player he coaches, whether it's the star number one guy or the last guy on the roster who's bringing water to help the teammates out. He wants the same.
Whatever your role is on that team, I think the average casual fan or the person who doesn't care at all fails to realize they get 11 or 12 opportunities to compete in a real game. But the amount of effort, energy, organization that is required in the classroom, in the meeting room, on the practice field, in the training room, all season long, all that goes into just this overwhelming appreciation for when you see a student athlete achieve something that they're proud of. We got to be friends with Sean Whittinghill, D lineman from a couple years ago, and he just had a fantastic redshirt senior season. That was his 2019 season, and he was a little, he was a little weary before the season started. He said, I've just been through so much, through so many surgeries, and to see him go out that redshirt senior season and just play the best season that he had, to me, it wasn't so much, man, Sean, you're dominating. It was, look at all you've overcome. And you can take these lessons with you for the rest of your life, because there's going to be times as a 35-year-old when you're going to want to fold on your career, your family, whatever it is, and you're going to know that you learned your redshirt senior season, that regardless of how you're feeling, you've got it inside of you somewhere that can rise up to the occasion and achieve more things than you thought were possible.
Sean's a great example, just like we talked about Javon Craig. Sean came back, like you said, on two knees that there's 60 or 70-year-old men that might have better knees than Sean Whittinghill had at the time. That's honest. And I hope Sean doesn't mind me saying this. Sean also was battling off the field with his health of his mom. That unfortunately came to a worse end than we would hope. But to stay with it, to have that wherewithal to just say, I'm still going to play, I'm still going to do this. That's the perfect example. If I wanted to show somebody what a football player and what a man or what a governor should look like, Sean Whittinghill's a guy I could put out there and not hesitate to put him out there.
Well, I'm really excited about the season. I'm really excited about hearing your voice, about hearing you and Van go back and forth, and in the conversations that I know will happen, seeing some new opponents on the field this year. That's going to be exciting. Of course, we get to see Coach Walden's year-long preparation for the first time. First spring practices happen, first full recruiting cycle. I'm excited for him. I know that it's not going to come without challenge. It's not going to come without adversity, but that is why football is such a great sport, is because it really is a microcosm of life.
100%,
every game
100%.
is a microcosm of what you're going to experience in life. Every season is, and I'm excited to watch him overcome a lot of things. So let's go to the lightning round.
Let's go.
Last little bit here. All right, if you could call any professional sports event, regardless of sport and or teams, give me one matchup you would just love to do.
If I could sit at the corner of Waveland and Addison every afternoon and call Chicago Cubs baseball, I'd be in heaven. Okay. That'd be the closest thing.
Yeah, that is awesome. I was not expecting that, so that's a great answer.
Baseball is my first love. Yeah. I'm a diehard Cubs fan. That's what, Cubs fan, Govs fan related very well there a few years ago. But yeah, if I could sit at Wrigley and call baseball, that's awesome. There'd be nothing better.
That's good to know. What do you feel like is the hardest position to play on the football field?
Defensive back.
Okay.
To me, quarterback. A lot of people say quarterback because there's so much memory and knowledge that has to go into that, and I agree with that. But defensive back, there is so much that is just you individualized.
Yeah.
If you're an offensive lineman, you've got a mate to the left and right.
Yeah.
If you're a receiver and you run just a hair, you cut the route a little shorter, run it a little deeper, things happen. If you're running back, sometimes you fumble something. Yeah. But as a defensive back, you're on your own. And if you make a mistake, it's publicized really easily, and it's not like you can just point to somebody else making that mistake. No. That's 100% you. So I think defensive back, and luckily I never played that position. Never had that grace. So,
do you have a go-to travel snack on the road that you're grabbing on the go on the road to call this game?
I'm a Reese's peanut butter cup kid.
Fair enough.
100%. Grab a 2-pack of Reese's and I'm ready to go.
All right. Favorite high school football player in Clarksville that you've got to see, during your life, or your as you've paid attention to high school football over a couple decades?
I keep up with all my high school teammates, some of the best friends I ever had, but the best high school athlete I've ever seen on the football field is Jalen Rives Maven.
Yeah.
Jalen was just so special to watch. At Northeast, I can remember, and I give Isaac Shelby a tough time about this because he was at Northeast at the time. He went for it on a 4th down at Hendersonville, 2 games away from a state championship, and they didn't get it. And he took it out of Jalen's hands, and I'm thinking, why in the world did you do that? But anyway, no, Jalen's just to see him. He's a running back by trade. Injuries made him play quarterback for 2 years. He goes to UT, and they put him on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm thinking, why in the world did you do that? And then he becomes a professional, and with the Texans now, and with this history with the Lions. But, the best football player I've ever seen is Jalen. Travis Henry's probably a close second.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see Harry. I've heard Harry Galper's stories from everyone, especially now that my son's at Clarksville High and hearing those stories. But to me, the best pure athlete I ever watched on the field was Jalen Rives Maven.
Yeah. I remember – I don't remember if it was Jalen's freshman or sophomore year at UT, but when he came in, he was a part of a pretty good recruiting class, and he was one of those kids that Tennessee really needed to get because he was one of the best players in Tennessee, but he didn't have a defined position. So,
agreed.
Where do you go as, kind of this football guy that doesn't have the size for a specific position, so you find your way on special teams? And he had a block of a punt against Georgia.
I remember exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
And that was the moment where I think Tennessee fans realized how special he was. And, of course, he went on to have just a fantastic career. I think led the team in tackles a couple times. But he is that guy, kind of like Sean Whittinghill, that is just all around. Everywhere, whenever you see him in public, he's meeting everyone, shaking everyone's hands. Yeah. He is a fantastic human, as approachable as anyone, does a lot of things in the community. So it's great to see the people that have achieved the highest levels of success from our high school programs still be men that our community can be very proud of.
And I'll admit my age here. I remember watching his dad play basketball at Northwest and knowing how special Marcus was as a basketball player. But then to see Jalen grow up and do all that, and you're right. A great representative of Clarksville, Tennessee, a great representative of the University of Tennessee and what he's doing. But if you saw him in the grocery store and a little kid could recognize him, some people will big time you, not Jalen. Jalen's going to shake hands or squat down and take a picture or do it. He's just that guy. He appreciates what has been given to him, so he wants to give back as well.
Yeah. Well, Brian, this has been fun.
Oh,
I really appreciate the time. And I guess we've got to thank Josh Smith for kicking you into the booth that led you all the way where we get to enjoy your talents now and giving you that drive to go ahead and pursue it.
I thank him all the time. I've told him every once in a while that I was going to get him back on radio with me and call a basketball game or something because, last state championship basketball coach, Josh Smith at Clarksville Academy. But he hadn't done it yet. So one of these days I'll have to tell him that somebody's sick and he has to do it on Friday and not let him get
desperate.
Out of it. You got to be there now. There's no getting out of it.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you for making it to the end of this episode. I am Kevin Kennedy, your host on Clarksville Vibe the Show, where we tell the stories of the people in Clarksville who make this the best place to live in America. We had Brian Rives today. You can find him as the voice of the Govs, both in football and in basketball season. Exciting times on Austin Peay's athletic campus right now. Great programs on the rise, something you'll want to be a part of. Go check it out. Thanks so much.